bow. Hey. If you wish, you may face toward me. I don't know what is the appropriate first sentence to say. It's a bit strange to say, thank you for your coming. Thank you for your chanting for your family or friends. But perhaps most appropriate expression is, it is appropriate for you to participate this once a year ceremony. Most of you are young, so death may be still a concept. But when one becomes a certain age, it is not the concept nor probability. It is sincere inevitability. When, that's only probability. I'm going to tell you a few short stories to cover the meaning of life and death. We think that we are living beings, which is true. And we think that deceased one are departed individuals. Thus we think. But one day, So and Roshi said, not in formal talks, but just casual conversation. When I informed someone's death, he said, I will say in Japanese first, ああ、これで楽になった。Which could mean, at last, he got the real comfort. 楽になった。これで楽になった。Real comfort or maybe we can think some other expressions. But even that, from my point of view, it is a statement by so-called living individuals to so-called deceased one. So, this, これで楽になった。Even at that time, it's many, many years ago, I felt that a kind of arrogance, even though that statement include sympathy, still a tiny bit of arrogance. Maybe he did not mean that, but I felt that way. On another occasion, this is a different story. My teacher's teacher, Yamamoto Genpo Roshi, when I was his Inji helper, assistant to Inji, so to speak. He was about 92 or 3 years old. And was sleeping in a bed. In Japan, on those days in the monastery, to sleep on the bed is rather unusual. Usually they use a futon, not on the bed. But because of his old age, he used a bed. So one day, in the morning, I visited him, and impression which I got from him was quite different. Normally, he was a very cheerful person, never depressed. But on that day, his energy was quite low. So I asked him, what happened? And he said, as you recall, yesterday, Mr. Such and Such came to see me all the way from Tokyo. While we are talking and while he was expressing his opinions and explaining his situations, instead of just listening what he said, I said to him, Genpo Roshi continued, something which is quite inappropriate. At that time he said, I was not aware of how much what I said hurt his feeling. But last night, before I went to bed, I thought our conversation over and over. And I strongly felt that what I said to him was certainly inappropriate. So I got off from the bed, facing toward Tokyo, sitting on the floor. I bowed many times with a bow for apology. It's not a letter, nor a telephone, nor face-to-face. Okay? It is not face-to-face, not a letter, not by phone, certainly not email on those days. Then he continued to say, the communication between living beings and deceased individuals can only be done by prayer, or by gassho, or by chanting. Now here, there is no speck of arrogance that I made a mistake. I'm still a living being, and you are living being, that person who came from Tokyo. But what he was telling me was the communication between living beings like we are and deceased one like your father, mother, family, and ancestors. Can only be communicated through the prayer, through chanting. And I remember that so vividly. And I love segaki, and particularly when we chant in a traditional way, I become almost very, what you call, high. There is a way to I say in one sentence, and everybody will say, yes, sure. And thus continues. So the other day, I went to DBZ for OBON and of course, attended the OBON ceremony, but did private OBON service in Sangha meadow, chanting my own way, my own traditional way. And here, facing serious inevitability of death, yet transcending life-death struggle. And when it happened, it happens. No worry. I must not say no concern. Yes, there was a concern, but no worry. When it happens, it happens. When one can become such a state of mind, one can accept things we are pacified, and while we are pacified, deceased one are also pacified. While we are not pacified, deceased one are not pacified. I think. When I came to America for the first time, so many years ago, 1960, we had a small Zazenkai in Honolulu. And for whatever the reason, this life or death matter came up. And to me, I was born in Japan, brought up in Japan, trained in Japan, and so on and so forth. So I did not know Western culture, Western way of thinking. But one individual said to me, "Tai-san, when one passed away, all we can do is to offer a flower, cremate, and that becomes ashes, that's it." I clearly remember his word, "That's it." Ever since my question, I've been thinking, is that it? Is it that simple? While listening deceased people's name today, I noticed Mr. Yoshizawa's name was called 3 times. He passed away 7 years ago. That's it? He must have left something not by thing, but that could be called kindness or something unforgettable, which cannot become ashes, cannot cremate, cannot even buried. Genpo Roshi passed away in 1961. Every single day I think of him. I think of Soen Roshi every single day. And their bodies, yes, transformed into ashes. But they left more than ashes. So, life and death. I said at the very beginning, I don't know whether this is appropriate to thank you to attend this service. But I said it is appropriate for you as a living being to express your gratitude or friendship, members or friends. Yes, some of them did not give us a strong impression, such as Mr. Yoshizawa. The reason why I mentioned Mr. Yoshizawa's name is because 3 times it appears while I was listening. And many of them are all known and unknown categories. There is a haiku by Soen Roshi, which goes this way. Fuji miete, ano yo kono yo no wakanatsumu. Fuji means Mount Fuji. At the same time, Fuji means not two, no dualism. Anoyo means the other world. Konoyo means this world. In other words, life and death. Fuji miete means at last I am able to see the non-dualism. And wakana tsunu means I am picking up the new green buds. Fuji miete, ano yo kono yo no wakana tsunu. This is a good one. It's a really good one. So we do sort of morning service every day, each time. Or some of you are doing morning service at your home every day or every other day. But doing so is a communication. As Genpo Roshi said, this is the best way to communicate. And best way to allow something in heaven, which may be called Dharma, Buddha, or God, can reach us. Zazen is the same thing, as I said at the very beginning. Straight your spine. Regulate your breath. Circulate your chi energy and accumulate it at your hara. And then all goes well. The reason why I said all goes well is my translation, because I cannot translate the original one, but for your sake I tell you, すべてが整う。すべてが整う。And I checked the English language dictionary. There's no exact translation. So I thought すべてが整う is all goes well. It doesn't mean all goes well in a way like you want to be. It doesn't mean that. All goes well. All goes well. すべてが整う. If you have a dictionary, you may check 整う. But more or less, all goes well. So, participation for Zazenkai and participation for Segaki in the Buddhistic spirit. I'm not going to speak what's going on in the world nowadays. It's a little bit inappropriate to say all goes well. Maybe the Zazen population decreases, therefore all these strange things over there, over here, all over the world. Therefore, it is our responsibility to keep this treasure, this truly this Sangha togetherness and Zazen practice together and chanting together, eating together, have a cup of tea together, Sangha togetherness and Zazen practice together. This is really a simple and yet a really indispensable deed in this day and age. So now I can say thank you for your coming.